We'd like to welcome everyone to our regular Housing Advisory Committee meeting for the year. Yay! I'm Joy Johnson and I'm the chair, and I'll go to my right.
I'm Nicole Stroh. I'm the real estate professional.
Rich Bard, I'm just a board member.
Ed Rosenzweig, I'm with Habitat for Humanity.
Kelly Brown, NDS director.
Phil Durantio, Planning Commission and alleged real estate professional.
Mike Breezy, Roseville resident, at-large member. Sunshine Nathan, Piedmont Housing Alliance.
Madeline Metzler, acting host,
Oh,
housing
sorry, Madeline.
program manager. You're good. You're going around the table.
I'll go to the audience.
I'm Wendy. I'm a FAR organizer.
Tori Kanalopoulos on the long range planning team with NDS.
And I'm Alan Pura with the city manager's office.
I'm Wade Lewis, FAR board.
I'm Melvina Hill, FAR intern.
Emily Dreyfus, community organizer with Legal Aid Justice Center.
Lane Smith, attorney. I'm the FAR intern.
Sorry, Angela Carr, FAR board, FAR intern, and I would say community outreach because I be outside. So,
Jose Akinlote, long range planning manager, NDS.
And Matt Offley, development planning manager.
Thank you. All right. Number next on the agenda is staff update.
Yes, and I'll, thanks for bearing with us today. I know there's quite a list here, and we have some special guests from NDS to provide some updates about what's going on in the department. But I'll start just from the housing division, and I'll focus today on the SISREP evaluation work plan that is in your materials that are in front of you. This was also shared with City Council on December 1st. And I really want to share it with you all because you'll, as the HAC members, be involved in the portions of engagement when we are working on those portions. So there will be more communication to come for you all in the new year as we kick that project off. But I did want to get that before you all, but I won't take time to, delve too deep into it, but we're just trying to holistically look at that program. We know it really is one of the only programs we're having in the city that is 100% the funding is going towards families that are earning 30% or less of the area median income. So we want to look at how we can strengthen it and potentially serve more of the community and make sure we're meeting the needs and strengthening the program as best we can.
Can you just explain for the folks who may be new what the SISREP program is?
Yeah, it's the Charlottesville Supplemental Rental Assistance Program, and it was designed to kind of be functioning similar to the federal Housing Choice Voucher Program. And it's a local housing voucher program that folks can apply for and then use on the market to find housing. We know that the federal program could always use more funding, and so we wanted to supplement it at the city level. Of course, that still only goes so far, but it's a little bit further than just the federal dollars alone go. All right, and if no other questions for now, I'll turn it over to Alan Pura, who will give an update on the tax abatement. Oh, did you want to?
Can I just add one
Yeah.
thing? So an update on the housing division program evaluation. We have kicked that off. We have a consultant on board to lead that evaluation for us. So some of you may hear from him. His name is Andy Friedman. He's from Progressive Housing. He was formerly a longtime director of housing and community development in Virginia Beach, really built that program from the ground up, and is now consulting and advising other localities on how to achieve their goals in this space. So just wanted to give you an update on that. He will be coming to a HAC meeting to provide an update during the process. But again, just be on the lookout. You might hear from him looking for an opportunity to talk to you and ask you some questions about what your insight and feedback might be.
And do you know whether or not that will be like in January or February before you come to that?
It will
to the
likely
HAC?
be February.
It'll be in February.
Possibly March, but hoping for February.
So probably add that to the agenda.
Start building it, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll note too, while we're on that topic, next month, Lori Jean Talloon from the Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission will be coming in and potentially with the folks that are working on the regional housing study to give the group an update. They have done a lot of the preliminary data analysis and have presented some of their preliminary findings to the project management team, which I got to hear, and I think you would all be really interested in that as well. So as long as you're good with that for the January, I'll put her on the agenda for that. But we can talk more offline about that if you'd like.
Y'all good with that? Okay.
All right, I'll turn it over to Ellen then.
Great, well, thank you, Madeline. And again, in introduction, I'm Alan Pure. I'm with the city manager's office, and I've been the lead staffer on the tax abatement study and process that we kicked off back in April when we made a presentation to council about the concept of a tax abatement. And city council asked staff to commission a study to look into the concept of a tax abatement, but first of all, do a market analysis so we could identify what are the primary impediments to housing construction projects in the Charlottesville community, to carefully quantify the costs of housing so that we could understand what cost impediments may exist, and then do an analysis of what incentive opportunities city government may have before it to potentially overcome some of those impediments on some levels. And so that's what the tax abatement study has done. We hired a consultant, 3TP, who you recall have addressed, we had Jeremy and Mike here, I think at your 2 meetings ago. And so they have been conducting the study, and we're to the point now where they have completed their final report draft and their feasibility model, which I think we demonstrated for you a couple of meetings back. We're kind of in the final, let's edit, let's make sure all the grammar lines up. And we will be presenting all of that to the Planning Commission on January 13th. And between now and then, making the final report and the draft report and the draft model available for review. So my understanding is we'll probably have that available soon for you to review. Just missed the opportunity for today. But just a couple of quick hits from what that report is going to conclude, most of which Jeremy was already here, may raise these points when we were last in front of you. But again, based on all the data, and incidentally, he's been working very diligently to get a lot of information, real-time information from current projects, ongoing projects that have tried and not gotten off the ground. And that includes both in the past couple of years and in our rearview mirror. Talking to developers, I know he met with some of you and spoke with you individually with the goal of getting as accurate information as possible to look at costs in the areas of hard costs, financing costs, soft costs, and then of course market rate rents. And of course, the affordable rents, because all of that data is going to inform that model that will help us as a collective whole look at what the impacts, the policy implications of a tax abatement program will be. But again, as a reminder, those major findings are that market conditions for housing construction are challenging right now, primarily because of a lot of high costs in construction materials, driven by a lot of things. Most recently, of course, we've got tariffs on many construction items that come in from other countries. We also have high costs of financing. While the Federal Reserve has made some reductions to their rates, those aren't quite percolating through yet. It's a little early, but all of those cost impediments are making it tough to get housing construction off the ground right now. Their other finding is that the inclusionary zoning ADU requirement is indeed a material impact on how much housing construction costs increase. But while it's material, it's not necessarily significant. It is not in and of itself a barrier, given all those other barriers that are much more significant. They also then looked at tax abatement models across the country and essentially conclude that given the headwinds to housing construction, kind of the traditional base and increment formula for a tax abatement would probably not be particularly feasible, without putting significant risks on city budget because of all of the changeable factors that are in the typical base increment that's impacted by land values, improvement values, tax rates, et cetera. On the other hand, they talk about the conclusion. One of the findings discusses the potential viability of the rent, what we're calling the rent gap model of an abatement. And that's based upon what's going on in Baltimore, where essentially it's a much more elegant model in terms of very simple. What the tax abatement formula would be is it documents what is the loss of revenue that a project would incur because of the 10% ADU requirement. That's what we call it, a tax gap model, because it tries to identify what the gap is between what they could have collected as revenue without the ADU requirement to what they have to do because of the ADU requirement. That's the gap. And then the model would consider the opportunity to fill some of that gap with a tax incentive. They talk about the findings are that might be a viable model, although it concludes that in and of itself, it is not likely to be sufficient to reduce the impediments to construction at this point in time. And so they also went on, fortunately, we wrote the scope broadly enough that they looked at other incentive opportunities. So the final version of the model that we hope to roll out soon will include other additional incentives that we could consider, the council could consider coupling with a tax abatement. But the bottom line is the model provides a great financial illustration of all of these impediments and all of these potential incentives, and helps give us an opportunity to have some conversations and council to have some good policy deliberations. And I think Sunshine.
Yeah, just a quick question. A moment ago, you were referencing that their conclusion towards the end was the tax abatement would be insufficient on its own. Is that because of the other factors outside of our control, i.e. interest rates and that sort of thing? Or is it because even if those things were more favorable, the tax abatement itself would be insufficient as an incentive?
It's the former, that it's given the current cost impediments, and I should correct that. It's that a tax abatement that wouldn't put future budget revenue at risk would likely not be feasible enough to overcome, because the requirements of the size of that incentive would be rather significant, with the idea of not putting future budget revenue at risk. But that's in the current context. And that's an excellent question, because one of the final findings and reminders is all of these conditions are going to change. Nothing stays static in this world. And so the value of the model is that staff will be able to update these cost inputs on a regular basis. As financing costs are likely to come down, we will be able to change those inputs as the facts on the ground merit, so that we could evaluate what a tax abatement might do within the context of this world in 6 months, 12 months, a year, 2 years. And so I should have qualified it. It's that a tax abatement would likely not be enough without significantly putting future city revenue at risk.
And sorry, one other thing. When will we see the documentation or the analysis, the report itself, just so we can look at it in more detail ourselves?
Right.
The report has.
Before it
analysis,
goes
right?
to the planning.
Pardon me?
The report has analysis, yes.
Yes, and we're hoping to, again, like I said, kind of correct final grammar and things like that and make that available between now and January 13th's Planning Commission meeting. So that you'll have access to it so you can take a look at it.
You know, when you think you'll have it finalized, because January 13th is right around the corner.
Yeah, it is. It's way fast.
Soon.
Yeah,
Very soon.
very soon. So,
It's obviously extremely fresh and forward in your mind, so I gather you're wrestling with it daily at this point.
I'm reading things as we go and actually I have the model up on my desktop because I'm wanting to make sure that we made some final formatting changes towards the end. We wanted to be able to better display what the actual impact of the abatements would be to tax revenue over year by year, over the 30-year term potentially, et cetera. We wanted to make that a little bit more transparent in the front end. So we just got back kind of those final enhancements to the model, and I just want to make sure that they match what staff recommended and requested of the consultant. So yeah, it is literally right up on my desktop at the office.
So my inquiry on this, and from my recollection about my thinking about it and the earlier iterations of our conversations, have we taken a look at this, and does this model address circumstances where an affordable unit is not required, for example, under a smaller configuration where it's not required to the density of the zoning, and seeing what impact we can have for providing one there? So let's say we've got a 4-unit on an RA and they want to do an affordable one. Do we have a built-in for something on that scale? Because it seems and this is very much back of the envelope and anecdotal, and the plural of anecdotes is not data, but I know that, but it seems to me that there might be an opportunity for a bigger bang for the buck on smaller ones where immediate cash flow and cash positions are more important to a smaller player.
Right.
I mean, somebody's building 150 units, they know it's going to cost a ton of money, they know they're going to be in the red, they have the money, they would love to get the rebate. But, on the smaller scale, it seems that there might be some additional opportunity there. Is that?
The model, the answer is yes. The model is adaptable to projects of all sizes, although the original scope of the project at council's direction was to focus on those that are required. The model is adaptable in terms of the number of units, the number that would be affordable. You can plug in, I'm going to build a 500 unit structure, or I'm going to build a 40 unit structure. So that can be done in the model. To address another point that you had raised in there, one of the additional incentives that's built into there would be the idea if the city could roll out a kind of bridge loan for the smaller investor.
We discussed that.
Yeah, who can't necessarily afford between conceiving it and
leasing it out.
Exactly. So we've built that in as an opportunity. Again, it's giving us a lot of tool options so we can demonstrate what the impact would be on the feasibility of and that is one of them. And I think that was because of the meeting we had here, where I think you guys raised that Jeremy heard that, built it out, and he demoed it for us a couple of weeks back.
Can I just jump in real quick on the timeline moving forward? So the planning commission presentation is an information item only. We're not asking planning commission to take any action, nor do we have any sort of schedule for going to council either on this.
Okay, that's my next question.
Yes, we are not seeking any action yet. We feel like there's still a lot of opportunity to get some feedback. Consider this within the context of some other items that are being studied right now. And so if there are questions after you've had a chance to review the report, we can certainly talk about those again at your January meeting or even February meeting. So I just wanted to flag that as something we hadn't.
Great, thank you. I probably can make that very clear. Thanks, Kelly.
So I'm Go ahead.
I don't know, I wanna say I'm really excited about this. It kind of threads the needle of like, staff concerns about budget and how providing a tax abatement would affect the budget, but development concerns about feasibility for projects under IZ, but also concerns about providing too much, incentive and over incentivizing. So it's very targeted. And I'm very curious what the other incentives are that supplement. And you don't have to tell me now. The report will come out.
This was a teaser.
Yeah, but it's very exciting. But one thing that we mentioned a bunch is the difference between the 80% and the 60% AMI for RA, RB, or C, so we can capture voucher holders. I've mentioned this a few times, and I think that would be great to have more voucher eligible projects come online.
Right. Well, the model does allow us to flex between the AMI levels. So we could plug in what would be the impact if on an abatement if we had, anywhere from 30 to 80% AMI. So that is built in. I don't think we quite threaded the needle on the voucher addition, but again, this is it's a dynamic model that we can change and add to.
So
that was Jeremy's primary build.
Will you all be looking at threading that needle?
If
it needs to be.
Correct.
I think that's a good question to consider, like put in the hopper with like all the other potential areas of study we could consider over the course of the next year. And again, I think once we've had a chance to all review the report, we can see what maybe are the greatest areas of interest for additional exploration. Clearly, I think this report shows that there is no silver bullet, that a lot of other tools are going to be needed. There's still other areas of focus that need to be addressed.
Yeah, I think it needs, go ahead, Dan. You had your hand up for a while. Go ahead.
Yeah, so in light of what Kelly had said, I think this takes on less urgency, but I'm wondering, do you know offhand what the ROI assumptions were, what the allowable return on investment for investors was to decide on feasibility?
That I don't know offhand. I mean, you can see it in the model.
It was 15%, and then our 20 earlier inclusionary zoning analysis used 12% as the cutoff. So I was more optimistic and found the same thing.
Okay, because what I don't want is for us to evaluate the data based on feasibility for chasing the best rate of return for investors. That's the wrong way to do it. Then you end up subsidizing the investors, not subsidizing the tenants. And then the other thing is we had talked about including a layer for looking at what ROI in an opportunity zone would be. Did that get added to the model?
No, we did not. That actually was a little bit beyond our scope, and it's in there as a placeholder and a recommendation that it's something we might want to look at as a subsequent review.
That'd be great. Yeah. I'll be probably pushing that when February rolls around, because it may be that this could be a targeted abatement in areas of town that are additionally fueled by federal legislation.
Right. And in particular, we had some discussions with, it was either Minneapolis, Columbus, Ohio, or both, who have done just that. So it just pushed us beyond the scope of this particular study, but it definitely merits attention.
Great, thank you. Just to clarify for those who don't know, OZ Opportunity Zone designation is typically census tracts that are lower income and that are more core neighborhood designated spaces. There's general overlap.
Can you guys say which areas in Charlottesville?
So I think it's a little premature to say, because the new OZ legislation passed in the One Big Ugly Act. Not that I'm editorializing or anything like that, actually loosen some of the criteria for what can qualify as an OZ, not necessarily in a bad way, because it's not necessarily forcing gentrification pressure on low income neighborhoods. Yeah, Expanded
It was
rural
the
areas.
Fifield census tract. and I think it was, like,
Fifield.
mostly Belmont-ish.
That towards Belmont, down to Southwoods, I mean, that's the county, but I believe 10th and Page was counted in there as well. So historically, that's true. And there was also some leniency in the OZ legislation previously that if you're doing something in an adjacent tract to an OZ tract, there is still opportunity for benefit too. So we don't know exactly how it's gonna play out.
And the governor-elect will be the one who will redesignate new OZs.
Yeah.
Was anyone in the room involved in that initial process of selecting?
So the way that OZ was set up
Or
is that
down
there are
the
some
route.
statutory OZ census tracts based on census data, and then the governor had the opportunity to designate additional census tracts beyond the statutory. So I was around and conferring with the governor's office at the time, or staff, and advocating, but it was a fairly opaque process. Basically, city councils or mayors contributed their recommendations.
And the statutory stuff based on census can give you some wonky answers in some tracts, for example, in the city, for example, because the lowest quote income census tract is right next to the university, because yeah, they're not poverty stricken, they just don't have income that we call income.
And just want to, thanks Emily for the prompt, wherever you are around what does OZ benefit. So opportunity zones are ways for investments in those districts to gain additional tax benefits for the investors. So the ideal outcome is that benefit, has some impact on either on deeper affordability or affordable housing in some way. In the first round of OZ, I think we generally saw that was not the case, that it was just opened up a door for the investors to get more equity out of or more benefit out of the OZ investments. There is a couple of studies that came out in the last year or so that highlighted that there, I don't know how much I trust this, but that, a couple 100,000 units of housing were developed out of the OZ incentive, but that much was affordable housing. It was just housing in general. And it was unclear. I mean, there's disputed analysis about whether that would have happened anyway in that environment, and whether it really just put more money in the pocketbooks of folks who were developing in those census tracts. Yes. One of the things that I advocated for back when it was first happening in Virginia is that it's federal legislation, so there's nothing we can do locally to hamstring it. But what we can do is set up guardrails around how we put our own incentives on there to push the right kind of investment as much as possible. And I think there's opportunity at the state level and the opportunity at the local level to really devise a strategy that incentivizes, it's not going to be able to stop, but incentivizes the right kind of investment that we want to see.
I actually think that there is an opportunity at the federal level when it comes back around again. This time in the update to the law, they actually provided additional step up in basis or additional tax benefits targeted to rural area investment. And so there's no reason, there's now a blueprint for how you would do it for affordable investment, for example. And so we Habitat at the national level have started running that up the flagpole with legislators on both sides of the aisle, and hasn't been completely shut down yet. But that's at the federal level, we're actually pushing to make it so that there is additional tax incentive for affordable housing investment as opposed to just housing investment.
Okay, well, I think the good news about this study that's coming to a conclusion and the subsequent model is I think when you get a chance to look at it soon, you'll see that it's actually a starting point. It's not an end point. There's subsequent things we can do, whether it's vouchers or opportunity zones or what have you. There's things we can do with it going forward. So it's a starting point, not an ending point. And I think Nicole's point, I think you'll see that when you see it, remember what she was talking about in terms of you can see things from multiple different perspectives. I think what will be the most valuable about this model is that everybody will be able to talk the same language at the end of looking at some of the scenarios. As Nicole was saying, how much this might impact the budget, how much it might make a project more feasible. Does it give us an opportunity to look at other incentive policy options, et cetera. I think you'll find that there's a lot there, and it's more of a starting point than it is an end point.
So we spend a lot of time on this, but just briefly, can you just say, is the model in Excel?
It's an Excel model.
Who will have access to it? Will it be,
it's
any of us can use it anytime, or we?
It's an Excel model that will be owned by NDS staff, which means that they will create some processes for updating things, because again, it's dynamic, it's not intended to be an endpoint. So Kelly's team will take possession of it as soon as it's final, and how we go about it from there is yet to be determined.
I'll ask permission to everyone.
We'll
run
see.
some numbers.
Yeah, could potentially, and because Jeremy built
I'm just
in
curious,
a, if you break it accidentally,
That's
you
what I was just
can
thinking.
reset it with a magic button.
I'll save as a copy.
Yeah.
I mean, and even if it was shared, it's like, we would still have our own copy. That wouldn't be the same one that people are playing with.
Right, correct. But it's, yes, it's got some default settings so that it's idiot-proof for people like myself.
Oops, I went too far button.
So, unless there's any questions, Madam Chair,
Anybody, you have a question, Emily?
Nope, don't think so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, I'll pull up the presentation here for our next presenters.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
My name is Ose Akinloton. The easiest way to remember is Ose, can you see? I currently serve as the Long Range Planning Manager for the Neighborhood Development Services Department. What I really want to do, because we are a new division, our inception was February of this year when I joined the team, and we have expanded, and I'll discuss that a bit. But to introduce you to us, our purpose, and some of the work that we're leading, and how it connects to everything else we're going to discuss today. All right, so I've introduced myself. Additionally, we have Tori, who's in the back there, if she waves her hand. She is our long-range planner. Additionally, we are fortunate enough to have Mike, who has been serving as our intern since this summer. He has transitioned to not only serving long-range planning, but transportation planning. He is with us for 10 hours a week, and 5 hours are dedicated to each division. Sarah, who is not in the room, she serves as the historic preservation and long-range planning intern. She is with us 25 hours a week through May. For her, she is primarily focused on historic preservation and dedicates about 7 hours per week to long-range planning. So as you can see here, I've outlined the purpose of our division, which is ensuring today's decision aligns with the community's vision for the future. And we'll get into that just a bit in the next couple slides. And it is our mission to foster a planning culture rooted in justice, connection, and resilience by connecting systems, partnerships, and community voices to guide Charlottesville towards a future where everyone thrives. So basically what that is, we set the policy. We set long-term policy and the direction for growth and preservation. We translate your priorities into clear, implementable guidance and policy. And we attempt to align the work across all city departments. So our North Star in the Long Range Planning Division is the Just Communities Framework. It builds upon what is already within the comprehensive plan, but sets out clear bounds at the local level. So it focuses on anti-displacement, inclusive governance, and wealth building. It centers fair access, affordability, climate readiness, and reparative and restorative approaches. Acknowledges historical exclusion, including the lack of representation of Black communities. And it commits to shared benefits, reparative engagement, not just the identification of past harms, but repairing those past harms, and accountable outcomes. So I want to highlight our 2022 for you. So we have acquired a public engagement platform called Social Pinpoint. It will be announced or made public next year. Our platform name will be Connect Charlottesville. So next is homestays and short-term rentals. We collaboratively worked with zoning to gather feedback. We did a survey early in the year. We just had a public engagement about 2 weeks ago, unveiling what potential changes or updates we are proposing to that regulation. Neighborhood fact sheets. And again, I'm going to look to Mike because he really led that effort all summer. We met with neighborhoods across the city for that development. They are available online and includes proposed transportation projects, zoning information, historical information relative to neighborhoods. And again, that is available on the Neighborhood Leaders site. I will say we worked with the neighborhood leaders for quite a bit this year. It was an absolute privilege. Sad to have let that one go. Also an environmental study. So Tori is actually leading our environmental policies and regulation study for the city. It's currently in its infancy phases. There is a work session with City Council on January 5th, if anyone is interested. And finally, just to highlight another project is the 10th page of Rose Hill Plan. You may have heard of this. We have been working on this since its inception. It's still in its early phases. We're trying to move at the speed of trust. Currently, it is on pause until we get further direction from council and city manager's office.
Why is it paused?
We need further guidance, input from the community for how we should move forward with this planning process. What's that? Seems like you have another question. Did I?
So there's no more engagement happening with the community?
Oh, there's always engagement happening with the community. My motto is to be in and with community. So I like to be boots on the ground. I will share next year. We will have planning pop-ups in 10th and Page and Fifeville, where we will be in City of Promise every other Tuesday from 11 to 2 p.m. And then Tonsler Park, we're Tonsler Recreation Center, pardon me. We are still trying to determine a time, but most likely on Thursdays.
So what guidance from council are you looking for?
So due to concerns about items or projects in the neighborhood, we had to take a more holistic look, which includes zoning, which Matt will get to, as well as housing, which I believe Madeline, do you have a few slides?
Kelly will speak.
Kelly has a few slides later on.
Why was it that it's at the City of Promise for the 10th and Page?
That was the only space that we could acquire at this point. Oh, I did hear back from Care Center. I have reached out to them months and months ago and just didn't hear back. But there is an opportunity there as well.
Yeah, there needs to be because everyone doesn't utilize the City of Promise house.
Understood.
Mostly they're participants, but if you're talking about the whole community.
Yes, ma'am.
It has to be another space.
Yes, ma'am.
And I know since I'm responsible for the West Haven Community Center and it has changed somewhat, it has to be a scheduled time.
Okay.
So if you can reach out to either me or Kathleen,
Will do.
we can try, just to make sure that the whole community participated.
Absolutely. And we will prioritize times that are better for the community as well.
Right.
So I look forward to connecting with that.
Even if we're doing it at the legal aid space, that's another space where it seems to be kind of neutral for all the communities, to me, the 10th and Page neighborhood. If they don't want to meet there is a division between West Haven and 10th and Page. I just hope you know that.
Yes, ma'am. I've noticed that there are some.
West Haven seems to be, some 10th and Page folks seem to see it as separate.
And I understand.
And I think developers see it the same way. That's why we have this pushback with LV Collective. We are a part of the 10th and Page, and you would treat us as we are part of the 10th and Page.
Absolutely. And I really want to make that connection. As you've seen before, I attend the 10th and Page Neighborhood Association meetings, and I want to become connected to West Haven. So I look forward to connecting about it for sure. So I've already somewhat talked about long range plans. It is the guiding document for the city, our vision, overall policies, and again, all of our departments are supposed to look to that for guidance, capital investments. But again, we are a new division within the city. And so again, we're in our infancy phases and we're trying to get our footing and trying to figure out what that looks like and how we integrate into the existing ecosystem here within the city. So examples of plans, of course, not only the comprehensive plan, but small area plans that have already been developed, our climate action plan. We will be moving forward with a mobility plan, and of course, the Parks and Rec master plan that was adopted this year. So I just wanted to provide an example. And I don't know why this is still up here. So click this out. Okay, it's just gonna stay here, I guess. Okay, I can figure it out. Sorry about that. All right, so the vision, this is the process. So the vision is the master plan or Parks master plan identified the need for a citywide vision for recreation facilities. And I apologize, it's the comprehensive plan. Identified needs for the citywide vision for parks and recreation. The policy. The Parks and Recreation Master Plan adopted this year outlines clear strategies for investment and implementation. An example of that is recommending targeted improvements to Northeast Neighborhood Park, including ADA access, lighting, and new amenities. So we're going to move into planning. The smaller area plan redefines scope, but for those areas, small identified areas. It applies the citywide goals to a smaller scale. It should reflect the local context and lived experience. You are the experts of your lived experience, and it should be included within all we do in planning. And that leads to investment, which is the CIP funding for Townsville Park, supported major upgrades, alignment with comprehensive plan and the master plan priorities, including new recreation facilities and accessibility improvements. I just wanted to give you a small example of implementation and what work has to be done and how we fit as long range planning into that process. So you're well aware of this process. I just wanted to highlight, especially as we're going into the conversation with our development review manager. Of course, the affordable housing plan was adopted prior to the comprehensive plan. It identified housing affordability as the most urgent challenge, and that is outlined and projected within our comprehensive plan. It helped or assisted identifying clear targets and needs first for this effort. So from there, A new development code was outlined, the need was outlined in the comprehensive plan to align with the regulations and policies outlined within the comprehensive plan. And I apologize, I repeated that, but it also provided a clear standard for enabling consistent outcomes. And that was adopted in 2024. So we took an obscure process to the actual development code, but adopting the housing plan first is probably the best timeline or process for us, because it focuses on the need, the urgent and important need within our community. And so you will see that throughout the document, and the focus to implement that and include that in everything we do here within the city. So moving into zoning, that code, it took a few years to develop after a comprehensive plan, but because of the housing that led that comprehensive planning process, it was included or prioritized also within that development code, inclusive of the inclusionary zoning and other items. So I don't have another slide, it's just my contact information, but I just wanted to share that long-range planning guides policies, policy regulations. Long-range planning also improves or hopefully improves trust and consistency. That is what we're currently working towards. I'm gonna say it over and over and over again. I move at the speed of trust. There are obstacles, there were acknowledgements, like at the meeting that I had at 10th and Page, and well, you were there at 10th and Page, and it resonates with us. We hear you, and that is how we prioritize and move forward within our work plans, our processes. Yeah, it's supposed to be intent into action, and that is the purpose of our division. So this is my contact information. I look forward to collaborating with all of you as we move forward. That is the goal of long-range planning. So you'll see us frequently. And thank you. We're going to move into the development code.
I would love to make absolutely sure that you're connected with our resident planners.
Yes.
Who are who meets just about every Thursday, still in the process of planning the redevelopment of West Haven.
Yes, ma'am.
And one of the things that they talked about, the residents talk about, one of their goals and objectives is to do, because West Haven was the baby that was birthed out of Vinegar Hill.
Yes, ma'am.
That there is a historic content there that needs to be still told.
Yes,
It
ma'am.
needs to be visualized, and that a lot of people, even though it may have been dirt ground, it was their homes, and a lot of people lost that. And so there's some reparation that they're always talking about.
Yes, ma'am.
But one of the things they wanted to build and is to have a memory wall, is to be able to do a memory wall, just basically showing what was in Vinegar Hill, how it was torn down, how it sat for 15 years. And then when the new thing, when the West Haven was built, to show, because there's lots and lots and lots of pictures of just actually showing how West Haven was dug out. How they just dug it out. I mean, it's unbelievable that they went so far down. And then also about the 30 years later, the water issue that is running down on the buildings and causing mold and stuff like that. And so they've been struggling with that piece of it. And then that was the pushback. That was one of the big pushback with LV Collective, because their goal was, how do we connect back to West Haven? And then when they did their footprint, showing some of what they would like to see connected back, when they used our footprint to draw their design, it actually now will block the visual of whatever a memory wall would look like. And so that became personal to the residents. And so this is why we push back, because even if the wall go up and even if they have done something to show the history, the wall is the only thing that's going to be seen. It will not be people. And so I would love for you to connect with the redevelopment committee. John Sales is not here, and Brandon is leading that charge. But I personally would love to see you working with them to see how they can come up with something, even if we lose the battle of that forsaken thing going up. How do you still do a memory wall or something historic memory of showing Vinegar Hill, what it went, and then now how it has transformed, because Vinegar Hill didn't have any residents participating, and we have residents participating in this redevelopment. So,
Gotcha. I want to uplift something you said about the culture that exists there. And we are not just focused on the physical infrastructure. We look to the social infrastructure that exists within your communities as well, and that's very important. Also, placemaking. People always reference placemaking, which to certain people does not bode well. It's a negative word or a negative process. We focus on placekeeping as well, that historic value, that historic texture that exists within neighborhoods. And I agree, it needs to be prioritized. It needs to be recognized. And I look forward to connecting to see how we can collaborate on making something happen.
Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So I'm Matt Alfley. I'm the Development Planning Manager at NDS. And this is a good segue. Thank you, Jose. I can kind of talk about our division in NDS. So as Jose was talking about with long range planning, we are the front end, engaging with the community in policy making. Development review is not a policy side. We are a review and compliance side. So we are the side of the house that reviews site plans, development plans, and utilizes the development code. And so as the development code adopted in 2023, this was a new, as Jose alluded to, this was a long process. This is a very different code than our previous code, our 03 code, which is more form-based and builds off the comprehensive plan. But as with any code, as the planners on the development review side have been engaging with it, we run into areas where it's not working, and we have divided those into 3 tiers, being tier 1, which is our kind of small grammatical errors, small changes, tier 2, which are areas we run into that are choke points, but are not where the policy and the intent is not changing, but there's a better way to approach it. And then tier 3, which I think a lot of people in our community are very interested in. Those are the policy changes. Those are the issues we're running into as a community, and those are so as I was explaining with the tier 1, these are very small things, small changes. I want to go back just to highlight one other thing, and I'll speak about this. I wanted to highlight kind of these updated dates. So updating the development code for tier 1 and tier 2 is going to be a yearly process that we'll be doing every year. This batch that we're taking forward, we're going to Planning Commission on January 13th with about 70 tier 1 changes and about 23 tier 2 changes. Pointed out, and I'll probably be speaking to that too throughout this. But again, tier 1 are very minor edits, things you just run into with any document, like Scrivener errors, those type of changes. caught. Tier 2, or excuse me, here's some examples of some tier 1, not very exciting. Again, Scrivener errors, mostly. And then also catching any changes related to development that came out of state regulations. The two biggest ones that we were hit with this year was our review times were shortened by quite a bit at the state level, and the role of Planning Commission was scaled back for development review. So these two bills that were passed, we needed to incorporate into our code and our processes. Tier 2 amendments, again, address more oversight and ambiguous areas of the code. But again, nothing that impacts the policy or the intent. One of the good things about our development code is every section has an intent section, what it is trying to do. And so these changes fall in line with those. So they're more about
Can I ask
Yes,
a
ma'am.
question? Can you go back?
Sure.
I'm struggling with the tiers.
Certainly.
Because right now, part of what, 7.5 Street and 10th Page is dealing with is about the things that we missed when we supported the change in the code, about how these humongous buildings impact the perimeter of a neighborhood. What tier does that fall in?
That would fall in tier 3. That is about a policy change and engaging the community and really hearing from the community, creating a planning scope to handle it. The tier 1 and tier 2, which are moving forward, are just about changes. They're not, this is more informative, where the public engagement is at the public hearing side of it. So these aren't big changes where you would want to engage with the community.
So why wouldn't community engagement be in tier 1 if they're getting ready to build a building? Shouldn't that's where you start with the community?
Well, for that's
I'm not understanding.
Yeah, so the tier 1 are just Scrivener errors where there were typos in the code.
Got you.
Yeah, so we'll look on that example page.
Scrivener.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know what Scrivener error is either.
Yeah, so
say that. Please.
Typos and misspellings.
Okay.
That's
that would work better for me.
Yeah, so that's why we have like 70 of them. We're moving forward. And then tier 2 are the small edits, and I'll go to the example page because this maybe would help.
Can I actually offer one suggestion for the labeling? Like tier 1 is low impact changes. Tier 2 is medium impact changes. Tier 3 is high impact changes.
I feel like they're falling off.
I'll give the example I'll use. It's a car.
I get it.
It's and I use this with Planning Commission too. So the code is a car. Tier 1 is washing the car. Tier 2 is changing the oil. Tier 3 is the light came on. We've got to fix something with the car.
Okay. All right.
Or someone poured diesel.
So some of the tier 2 examples that are coming up is a good example is that this is a very form-based code that has gone away from unit type. Our old code was all about different types of dwellings, single family homes, duplexes, triplexes, townhomes, multifamily. Our current code does not use that language. It just talks about unit count. And as part of that, one of the unintended consequences was in some of the low density residential, you can't have duplexes because you have a 4-foot side setback. And that's preventing a type of housing we want. And so we were proposing some language that would allow duplexes, so you're allowed to go to the property line. But that's the kind of the level of these tier 2. These are minor changes that are not policy changes. And then tier 3 are focused on policy changes, focused on significant amendments that impact the long-term goals of the plan. And they need to have a planning process because they need to have that robust community engagement to really, this really ties into the long-range planning. And this will tie into Director Brown's next presentation, which gets into the work plan and some of the planning projects that are going on to incorporate some of these things into tier 3. And then just some examples of tier 3. This is, of course, not all of them. No, we've heard from the community, from developers, from our builders on some of these tier 3. But, you know, some of the examples is, what is a building? I know it sounds like a small thing, but that actually plays into a lot of our bonuses and a lot of our intensities.
Just a minute, please. She had a question.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
I wasn't.
I don't want to be annoying, Matt. I just, can I ask you if the sublots in CX and RX has been added to tier 2? I'm sorry, it's a very annoying question.
No, I mean, it's been added to the list. So we have, it probably won't go through with this batch, but that we're doing a yearly, we'll be doing this yearly where we're learning a lot from this first year. This has taken more time than we would like. We're hoping the next 2026, we're hoping it won't be as many as, 70 plus tier 1s and 20 some tier 2s. And we'll actually fine tune the process. But what we want to do is, this is really about maintaining the code. The tier 3 issues are about finding the community goals and community policies. Those are the big planning side. The tier 1 and tier 2s are about just making sure the code still works as we want it to work, and we're maintaining it yearly. So another example kind of the tier 3 is the RNA districts. We know these are in the code, but they need to be explored more. Are we doing the right things with our RNA districts? And then another example.
To Nicole's question, why can't it be done this year? Why it have to be done? Well, next year.
Because the packet's really already, just because of the logistics. So we're going on January 13th with public hearing. So that information has to be done about a month in advance to make sure we're doing we had to send the advertisement out, has to advertise in the newspaper twice. So there's a lot of logistics that goes into when you start changing to the codes.
She's been asking about this for a while, so how we didn't make it.
Thanks, Joy. I should have asked earlier. It's okay.
Nicole, I can get better information for you. And once we have all the information in the working document, which will be part of the packet, but I can get that information to you. And with that, again, I'll see if there's some.
Sorry.
Before I turn over to Rebecca Brown. Yes.
So first of all, I appreciate the work you're doing on this. I actually really think that the process. Oh, hi, Ms. Brennan. I think the process has actually been really good. You've done a great job stewarding it. I think the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 makes a ton of sense. As it pertains to the development code, so I'm going to beat the dead horse I beat all the time when we talk about this, that I don't actually see. I've investigated 15 different parcels now. It's not the development code primarily that's responsible for chilling development and stopping the implementation or movement towards implementing the vision in the code. And it's the holy trinity of zoning, fire suppression, and engineering. Until those 3 things get worked out, we can perfect the code and we're not going to build anything. Yep. And so, and sorry for the dripping sarcasm, I can't help myself, but I'm just wondering where in the process, bringing those 3 points on the triangle are going to come together, and we can think about all of those things holistically.
I think we're definitely moving in that direction. We have definitely seen under the 2003 code, we definitely saw a lot of barriers with zoning. And I think a lot of those barriers have been removed with the current code, and we're seeing where those barriers are now that I think we'll be exploring the best way now to focus on those. But I do think there's some stuff hopefully coming together in 2026 that'll start to look at these issues that have come up that have not been zoning related, but we see them on the development review side because we're the ones sitting at the table. And so I think there will be some opportunity.
Again, I just invite, I'm sorry, probably doing this on behalf of the chair, but I invite the HAC to be a resource on that. here we have people who finance projects, who develop projects, who design projects, who build projects. And so we would love to be part of that process. And it's, in fact, I think it's one of the things that we're prioritizing later in the meeting as on our work plan. So put us in, Coach. We'd love to help. Sorry, Joy, is that okay?
That's fine.
Thank you all again for the opportunity to come speak and give kind of an update on where we are with this process.
So I'm Kelly Bryn. Kelly Brown.
Kelly didn't make that typo, I did, just to clarify.
Really
Kelly does type her own name.
I don't know, are we using the microphone? Is it necessary? I'll just talk.
It's there.
So I am going to provide you with a brief update. I think this is our last staff update. Share with you an overview of our scope of work for review of our Affordable Housing Dwelling Unit Manual, our ADU manual, and the specific focus that the study is going to have on our in lieu fee expectations and student housing specifically. So as you all know, we are required to review the manual on an annual basis. And so what we decided to focus on in this first update were the in lieu fees specifically and expectations for student housing. Really because we are seeing student housing development in the community, interest in that. And a number of questions have been raised about whether the expectations for contributions for affordable housing are correct, are right-sized for student housing and fair relative to expectations for other sorts of housing. Also questions about where policies for student housing apply geographically, whether or not that geography is appropriate. So you can go, oh, I can advance. So the focus, as I just said, will really be on in lieu fee payments, student housing, and also expectations for bonus height. And we will conduct this study, ultimately have some recommendations that we'll bring forward. As I just mentioned, sorry, I had just gone through some of this, but the criteria for student housing affordability expectations will be looked at. The geography, whether the current focus for student housing requirements is appropriate, if that should be changed, whether the requirements for student housing should be different than requirements for non-student housing, and whether we should have different expectations for the application of bonus height. The process will start with the development of some guiding principles to inform recommendations. We are looking at peer jurisdictions, policies, and strategies. And we're also looking at different methods for how an in lieu fee quota should be calculated. We will be asking questions of stakeholders as we conduct this study. What really should define a successful outcome? What would mean success? Should a policy prioritize on-site units, or should it prioritize fee payments, or is a balance needed? And how should the production of student housing really be treated in our community? What are truly our goals? What are our concerns for student housing? So we are conducting engagement with commissions. We will be sharing an overview of this with council in the new year. We will be evaluating study findings. We are working with the same consultant who did the tax abatement study, so we have a really great baseline of expertise. 3TP, yes, to help inform this work. They already have an in-depth understanding of the financial feasibility of different types of development. They're taking a closer look at student housing. We'll be developing some policy options and hoping to have recommendations in the spring of this year. But ultimately, we're hoping that these recommendations provide a better framework for meeting our community's goals for different types of housing in the city.
So you all are doing this now, or we will be doing it, and if and when you do, how are you we're going to be reaching out to communities to talk about it. And we do have some students who are working with FAR on doing a lot of surveys about how students feel about some of these student housing that are going up and can they afford them. So
Yeah, we would be happy to meet with your interns. Looking forward to doing engagement. We're happy to attend community meetings.
Wendy is in the audience, is she?
I'm right over here.
Okay.
And we'll have information on a webpage that just provides kind of an overview of the study and the different touch points for engagement with commissions and councils.
So you all are actually doing the study now?
We've started the work, the kind of the internal analysis of financial feasibility and things like that. We have this, you are our first stop in an engagement effort. So looking for feedback from you all in terms of what would be good to
Yeah, and so what I'm asking is that you include FAR.
Will do.
Because they have a student group, Friends of FAR, who is actually working on some of that stuff.
That would be great.
Just to get feedback, so we better understand how the students are feeling, if they're feeling the same way we're feeling about these student housing being built in our neighborhood. So I would appreciate it if
Absolutely.
You and click to it.
Yep, that'd be great. So to circle back to the question from earlier, so the 10th and Page and Rose Hill small area plans paused in reaction to the 2 large student housing projects that are being proposed. And I guess is the study gonna happen first?
Yeah, so the tax abatement study is wrapping up. This review of the manual recommendations for student housing, that will be concluded in the spring. In the meantime, we do expect that there's going to be some discussions with council about questions that have been raised about these large scale projects. Those questions are making it difficult for us to move forward with the long range planning process, because I think there's questions about what should really be looked at within the scope of that small area plan. So we're hoping that through some engagement with council, we can get some clarity on what the scope of the small area planning process should be. Having said that, and as Osei alluded to, moving at the speed of trust, it's really important for us to be receiving, knowing that the community is really wanting to move forward. There's no sense in us doing a planning process, kind of on our own. So I think, but for both of those pieces to kind of be in place is what will help us know how to move forward with the small area plan.
And I think just to add kind of a city council perspective on it, I think, one of the challenges, these projects are the main focus of people in the neighborhoods, not just because are one of the main focus that's engaging people, not just because of the 2 individual projects, but symptomatic of underlying zoning districts. And, to have plans to create a small area plan where you're saying, and we're not going to do anything about the issue everyone is most concerned about, for city council, I feel like makes it just challenging. And then connected to that, I would guess a big priority for many people is going to be a desire for community-oriented development. And if that's going to be achieved, that the plan would need to coincide with zoning changes that make that feasible. One example, the community believes like 501 Cherry is a good type of project that we should try to get more of. That literally only happened because it required a rezoning with a discretionary decision point. So those are just political decisions city council will have to come to. I don't know if that answers it at all, but I think those are some of the questions council will be weighing.
Yeah, they interact. I mean, they both are symbiotic, right? Like they're community. Like I thought it might be a good time to get community feedback to inform how, but I can see how we want to. I don't know. They're related. I get it. I was excited to see 10th and Page and Rose Hill small area plan so far.
Yeah, and around the student housing, it's just interesting to hear how there is some perception from other folks of how they're using the school numbers to kind of say, oh, people are moving back in the neighborhood and students are moving out, but that is not so. And so that's why I want to make sure that the community is involved, because there is a whole lot of myth that is not so true when you talk to people who live in the neighborhood, or from people who live in the neighborhood who knows. Like there's this one myth that, Venable people are moving in the neighborhood, new people are moving in the neighborhood because the numbers at Venable went up. But what happened was all the kids in West Haven who used to go to Bella Moran are now going to Venable. And so, yeah, and then, there's some other things too that we know who is renting, affordable housing, or buying some of these housing and renting a truly affordable housing to folks. And it's not the stuff that get newly built. But anyway, so I would just love to see you working
I look forward to
from the community perspective, and even Roselle, no one is paying attention to Roselle, but Roselle Drive has a pocket of low-income communities there that, right now, nobody's paying attention to it, but I am, and some of us is, because we know sooner or later, most of those houses is probably gonna get
they're gonna
sucked up. Yeah.
Just to add to that, I think, some of the Weldon Cooper Center's past work could potentially be of some use. About a decade ago, they did that study on trying to estimate school enrollment after the standard and flats went up. And they updated that literally like a year ago and presented that finding at the Regional Housing Partnership and said they are no longer seeing families move in to neighborhoods, and their explicit words were, we do not expect additional student apartments to result in families with children moving into neighborhoods. That decade-old study is no longer Weldon Cooper's analysis. And our original inclusionary zoning analysis, if there's any way to get with some of the people who developed that, it could be of value, because one of their findings was that in geographic areas, they estimated that our inclusionary zoning was too low and that it could actually be higher, particularly for student housing, given it was the most profitable housing type. And I think it'll be relevant that they estimated anything above 6 stories in our market as student housing. That was explicitly in words on the paper. So when we think 6 stories and above, we should really think student housing and think about what that means. And the final thing is, I don't know how we do it, but I feel like we really, really need to try to connect with UVA to get a sense of what their plans for enrollment growth are. Because I really don't think this is just like a talking point. It is totally reasonable that UVA's response to a glut of new private student housing is to just increase enrollment, either at an undergraduate or graduate level. And we have no, at least I don't have any sense of what their long-term plans for enrollment growth are. But I think that's a pattern that has happened in other college towns.
Well, we do plan to engage UVA. If you have specific individuals that you'd recommend connecting with.
They probably wouldn't listen to anybody in the city.
Well, I appreciate the feedback. We will be back, but wanted to let you know that we were taking these questions seriously, and this had not been on our work plan as a tier 3 study, but decided to add it kind of midstream so that we could try to address some of these concerns, and do think that the recommendations can have an impact, if not on projects that are currently in the pipeline, in the future. So
would you be doing a market analysis of student housing?
that is not in our scope at the moment.
What was the question?
Yeah, 3GP is doing an analysis of the student housing market. So areas cost how much, which kinds of buildings cost how much, how are they changing?
Yeah, it's an interesting question.
I made a stab at it.
Yeah, well, I mean, Go ahead.
I would need more data to really speak confidently, but I think that piece would be really valuable about how to regulate student housing. It's not all moving at the same rate, I think. Yeah.
As you were speaking, Mike, it occurred to me that even like through all the presentations and discussions that have happened so far today, and I was trying to map it out all in my mind about what study goes where and how it informs the next piece and the plan that moves forward. Like, I do think there would be helpful to have sort of a visualized diagram that shows the intentional building of our studies and our work to lead to whatever outcomes we're trying to pursue.
Sure.
Because I know, like, we are here for 2 hours now. We're going to come back next month and we'll have forgotten all those dates because we're not in it every day. So having some reference point for us to understand how those studies are, we know they're intentional, we know they're purposeful, but how they relate to the long range planning, how they relate to the outcomes we're trying to get at the zoning side, at the other parts, the triangle that Dan was referring to. We went through this process, going back in time to like the 2018 timeframe, where the first meaningful affordable housing assessment needs study came about. The Planning Commission had begun their comp plan process. The HAC was proposing to do the affordable housing plan, and it was all of a jumble for a while until it took us probably a year to like work through what the Planning Commission was doing, what we were doing, what the City Council wanted to see before we started to get a plan that was clear and contiguous. And I feel like there's an opportunity to redo that in this moment, recognizing there's a lot going on between now and say the end of 26.
That's good feedback. That's something we can think about, figure out how to communicate that. We are in the process of developing some webpage updates that should help a little bit understand the individual items a little more. But I think showing how they sequence with one another would be helpful. Agreed.
And to go back to the earlier one, or earlier presentation, this would be just a decision City Council would need to make, but I wonder if kind of a political tier on the changes would be warranted, because some of the bigger changes will require study, but some of them I feel like don't require any study or analysis. It's just does City Council just make the decision or not, but that's City Council to make that decision.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so now next on the agenda is to approve our November 12 HAC meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second. So is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And then review and identify priorities.
So I'm just pulling up the minutes on the screen too, because Mike did a nice job of capturing. So we don't have to try to remember everything that happened last meeting.
Yeah, I was looking at this right before you pulled it up, Madeline, and the three things, we went through a two round process for trying to take a whole range of ideas and try to figure out what we were going to focus on first. And there were two clear winners with a close third, but essentially, what Dan was referring to around the triangle between the zoning code and then related regulations was one of the top focus areas. The budget advocacy and IAT is the second. And Kelly, I know you're getting food at the moment, but I'm going to just loop into the City Council meeting that happened on Monday, and how there was a reference at one point to the work that I think Mike, you brought it up, or around the IAT, the investment
intervention analysis.
I can never remember intervention analysis tool. Thanks, Dan.
Yes.
That we had done years ago, and it sort of has sat and languished since. You sound like you were interested in, and so one of the things I was going to suggest as an outcome of this meeting is that we establish a small working group and then to meet with Kelly and whoever you think is appropriate on your team, just to do an intro to it, to see what was there. And then we can see what we think would be helpful moving forward.
Welcome.
And then this, the third one was place-based incentives. And that's specifically, this is at, Osei, just leave.
You just have to step out right now, yeah.
Okay, well, this gets at the small area plan, and around the potential for designated revenue for implementing, small area plan, priorities through a TIF structure or any other sort of structure where it allows for, community-directed spending and prioritization in those communities. So a lot of the things already talk about, like the things that are already in play. I had not heard that the small area plan process had sort of stymied for a minute because of the, what you were bringing before.
Assessing.
Yeah, maybe stymied is too strong a word.
Pause is a strong word.
Okay.
We're assessing,
But I think just to reinforce, I'll say this from my perspective, but I think this is true for the hack as well, that is one of the priorities that we wanted to see happen. So as you contemplate how that fits into the puzzle of priorities, that's a high one on our end.
Don't forget, Sunshine. The land bank acquisition
Yeah, that's.
is a priority.
Well, not
And the
in round
first
two.
vote,
I know,
the first vote.
I know.
That I actually, I think that's really, really important and could have been a solution to the two projects moving forward right now. Having very aggressive and very pointed and directed land acquisition by a collective group would be great while we have an opening of the zoning code in wealthy neighborhoods so that we can build in those wealthy neighborhoods but protect. Yeah, I don't know. Whatever. We're trying.
Agreed. Well, the one thing that I thought was interesting in Sam's comments during the work session around that is that he seemed like he wasn't totally explicit, but he seemed to imply that he was less supportive of like a strike fund, for example, more supportive of other forms of intervention. But he didn't really go into details on what those might be. So I do wonder, I don't know what further conversation there is to be had, but anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I was a little disappointed with how defensive Sam was. I think the planning commission meeting was good. I think that there were a lot of issues identified in the planning commission meeting. And then it kind of seemed like at council meetings, Sam was really defensive because of those identified issues. And that was a little disappointing. To say that there's a process in place for analyzing affordable housing because we have an RFI or whatever is a little ridiculous.
What?
Sam said that there is a process in place currently for analyzing affordable housing priorities and affordable housing outcomes because we have a request for information process.
Yeah, that does make sense.
I think we have an opportunity. I know there was some language in one of those slides that spoke to how staff wants to work to improve that process.
Yeah.
To increase transparency and have some more standards or criteria that we're all in agreement of.
Yeah, develop criteria for evaluating applications, making sure that there's a timeframe for public review. I think that's something that staff wants to work on this year. So perhaps there's different opinions on how much a process is in place today, but I hope we can all agree that there's an opportunity for improvement moving forward. Something that NDS is very much interested in pursuing, working on.
And do you guys see that as being the IAT? Or is that something different in your mind?
I think it's a tool, potentially a tool that can help inform that process. I don't know if it is the process.
Sure.
So what by way of sort of general observation, I think that, and I spoke to this at the planning commission meeting last time, that part of Osei's job fits into this box, but these processes need to be within a strategic framework that everybody understands and can refer to. And we really don't have sort of strategic level thinking on a lot of these things. And part of that is because there are people who have that as a piece of their job, but not a big enough piece of their job, and the rest of their job takes priority over that. I mean, you know, when you're busy trying to bail out the boat, you don't have any bandwidth to figure out how to plug the hole if you're busy, you know, I mean, it's the thing that's immediately in front of you that you're dealing with. And so I was very relieved to see that we are hiring a citywide chief strategy officer, because I think that can really inform some of these larger decision-making processes and how they all interact with each other. But that is a very important role. You know, I have been on the HAC for 12 years. I've been involved in the city's housing efforts, and one of the constant refrains from staff, from commissions, from council, from planning commission, is that a lot of this is really, in spite of itself, really siloed and not integrated well. And I think part of that is the larger questions that we need to start asking about, you know, larger scale processes, long-term thinking, how it all fits together. And there needs to be somebody who does just that. So I'm really excited. Hopefully we've got some good candidates for that position that they can start putting a bit of stick about and print, you know, and impressing that. Because otherwise, to Sunshine's earlier point about let's see how all this interacts, I mean, that's on a very small scale, but that's easy fix. Yeah, I can graphically show you this, but to make sure that we've got this in the broader outline. So I'm not sure I've got a point to this other than I really hope we get a chief strategy officer on board and they are loud and aggressive about developing some strategic tools, because I think that's one thing that we bump into a lot here. Particularly if we're hiring, you know, consultants have that capacity, but unfortunately it's not a static situation. They can say, here's a way to think about this. And like, you can't.
So one thing I'll add to that, and I'm channeling OSE, is that yes, having a chief strategy officer, developing a strategic plan that can guide us in the short term, benchmarks for measuring success, helps inform prioritization, yes. But our comprehensive plan and the supporting elements of it should really be what I think is guiding how we do our work. And if we don't feel like we have enough guidance in our comprehensive plan, or maybe some of the guidance and elements of our comprehensive plan is a little outdated, you know, maybe that's where some other focus should be.
Agreed.
And I also think that there's just a lot we can do as a program moving forward to help clarify, you know, how things pieces move together, what areas we're focusing on in any given year. I'm looking forward to developing a work plan for the housing program for the next 2 years that you all will be a part of helping us to create. And I think that in and of itself will give us a lot of comfort in knowing how we're moving forward.
I agree. I just think that there needs to be somebody who's 100% of their time is the strategic thinking piece, and they can deal with that.
It is a full-time job to do that.
Do the strategic thing. I mean, and not just for NDF, I mean, for the whole city.
The whole city, yes.
Yeah, and to be able to sort of swoop in and say, okay, let's try to integrate.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really excited about that. I understand that their interview is going to be starting in January.
So do we feel like we have our 4 priorities?
I think so. Yeah, well, the land bank.
Nicole is looking.
The land bank is.
Sorry, Nicole.
I mean, it is, right? It was
Right, in the first round.
I mean, yes, 4. Yes.
I don't know, I'm sure we're all tired of it, but it's important.
So
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Of Kelly, thinking about, let's say January, February, March, in terms of the engagement with you and your staff, given the priorities we've outlined, given what you shared today, you and your staff shared today, what do you think are the 3 things that get focused on from your perspective in those first 3 months?
You are putting me on the spot.
I am, yes. And maybe it's a follow-up.
So share again your priorities on that.
So it's the ordinance ordinance and related regulations, the triangle that Dan was talking about.
Okay,
The land acquisition and holding, land bank,
Yeah,
other
we said land
tools.
acquisition and holding strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Place-based
Place-based incentives, which is the small area plan and that sort of thing,
Okay.
and then
And
the
budgeting.
IAT budgeting process.
Okay. So I mean, we are actively engaged in number one, so that's already on our work plan, that will continue to be on our work plan, you know, refining the ordinance, finding other ways to facilitate the development we want to see. So that will stay on the top of our list.
Can I
Small
back?
area planning, a huge fan of it. I think we should be doing more of it. And I think it's a way of prioritizing our investment, you know, in the community. So that'll be at the top of the list. But then we have so many other things that we're working on. We have a SISREP evaluation. We are trying to develop recommendations for tax abatement and student housing. So it's going to be more than 3 things.
Yeah.
That we're all trying to do in the first part of next year.
Hearing you say that,
Developing loan agreements, sorry.
no, hearing you say that, I mean, it's just like a huge amount of work and a huge amount of new initiatives. I know our affordable housing plan called for increasing staff levels for implementation of it. Is there a sense, you know, additional staff positions would be helpful or necessary to do a lot of this?
You don't think you're about to say no.
Well, I think it's that eyebrow.
So the housing program evaluation will have recommendations in it for what a program, you know, how a program should be staffed that's trying to accomplish all the things we're trying to accomplish. So I think that will be a very important report for informing recommendations for this year and for probably many years into the future. The manager's operating budget, I'm not sure when it comes out, you know, what he will include in there in terms of his recommendations, but definitely he is aware of the workload and the need to make sure that our team is supported. He spoke to that on Monday night. You know, I think that's probably all I should say in this forum.
I say who you talking about, Sam?
Yes, manager, excuse me.
No, I remember his statement about it.
Yeah. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I go back to where you started and maybe try to get a little more specific? Because what I heard Matt talk about was, and I heard you say prioritization, like it's already underway around the ordinance side. With all due respect, I heard Matt kind of like fumbling a little bit around how to address the other two parts of that triangle and how they integrate into the work plan over the next year. And that is a priority for us. And so just wanting to get more specific on what that looks like.
Yeah, I mean, he wants to bring together, you know, a working group that can start to think through those challenges and develop some ideas for how to troubleshoot. The challenge is that a lot of things are going to be outside of the control of our department, very honestly, right? Potentially even outside the control of the city, if you're talking about building code issues. So while I think we really want to try to dedicate some time and mental energy to thinking through what else is going to be needed to see our vision become a reality, we will need to try to, like, you know, manage expectations about what it is that the city can accomplish at the end of all of that. Realistically,
I
right?
think it is a lot. Like utilities are a big part of what. Yeah.
I mean,
I'd love to have utilities.
I was gonna say, can they come talk to us? Or is that
I
not
mean,
allowed?
there are some constraints that we really, I think, need to do a deeper dive on to better understand. So more to come. More to come. I laugh when I say that to myself because I had a boss that used to always say that. More to come, and it was very frustrating. Yes. Because it's not very satisfying.
Matt wants to start a working around.
It sounded like that, but I didn't hear any clear plans for it, just a desire.
I think he wants to get some more of his thoughts down on paper before he makes up. And I'm sure I'm probably oversharing at the moment, but it's definitely the intent, you know, that we focus some energy and effort on this next year.
Is that something we could ask them to bump up? Because it seemed like put more energy into it would probably need June, July, August.
I think he's
Instead
on it, and I
of,
think we know how much of a priority it is. And it's good to know that you all are really interested in it and willing to be supportive of it.
well, we can get a committee to work with them.
I think that would be
Subgroup to meet with
the
them.
goal,
It's
was
just
that there
that
would be a working group.
When I'm hearing more to come, and you know, it's already January.
You wanna know a date?
Yes, yes.
All right, I'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay, so you'll bring it back to us in January?
Well, we'll share something in January.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I think you did talk about bringing up the overall NDS work plan at some point too in the future, just to show
between
the broad
now
scope
and
of
January.
everything that is going on, and that may be helpful to show Sunshine's earlier point too of how things are all working together, at least in the realm of one department.
Okay, well,
So on the point of working groups, sorry.
go ahead.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Because I wanted to ask Matt, and now I'm gonna say mine. Do y'all keep track of, in the pre-app meetings, what the issues are?
Yes. I mean, the pre-app meetings are one of the best data points to inform
Right.
what's on that long list.
Yeah, okay.
That's
Like Patrick attends those meetings for the sake of taking records.
Okay, well, I will ask you for those later.
Nice, subgroup.
So back to the IAT piece, the working group there. In like one of the things we did in the sort of like working days of the IAT is we structured it so that no more than 2 of the commissioners, so we didn't have to have it be a formal public meeting. We could just do working group related stuff before it came back to the committee as a whole. I would recommend at least, and in terms of a meeting with you and whoever else you designate, that is the right format just to catch you up and see what you think of it and see what their next steps might be. So I was just gonna see if there are 2 folks who would be interested in participating in that from the hack side.
On the IAT.
You got 3.
Oh, you need 2.
Nicole, you and
That's too many.
You can only have 2.
Dan.
You can only have 2 unless you
You
call a
only have
formal.
2.
Yeah.
Well,
But you can still come to the meeting. You just can't.
can't.
No, you can't come to the meeting. Okay.
But, you know, I will point out that.
What if there's rotating
Rory
number?
has retired, so now has more time.
What'd you say, Phil?
Rory has retired from the planning commission, so,
I think it'll be 2 of us plus Rory.
yeah.
Big fan of Rory. I think he's great with his stuff.
Well, he also
Really?
engaged with it. He was the one who's helping.
Oh, I know. I talked to him about it.
All right, well, let's try to
Okay.
find a time with the 2 of us and Rory, and then you and whoever else you want to bring
sure.
in the new year.
Okay, anything else? Okay, now we move to public comment.
Never mind, you did it for minutes, sorry,
Do
we
we-
did that before.
Have any, there's no one on.
No, nobody joined.
Okay, in the audience, any public comment? Wendy?
Hi, everyone. I'm Wendy. I just wanted to make a public comment to say that I really want this body to take a stand on this issue of LD Collective on West Main Street and the Mark on 7th Street. I think that I've been to every HAC meeting since September, and Ms. Joy has raised the issue at every single meeting and asked for this body to do something about it and prioritize it, and it really doesn't get much traction. But as the Housing Advisory Committee, I think it's really important that this body in specific takes a stand and makes a recommendation to City Council or whatever it is that you all can do to put pressure on City Council and the Planning Commission to change the zoning code. I think that you should do that because these buildings are going to be catastrophic for core Black neighborhoods. They're going to accelerate gentrification and dispossession. I know that y'all are all approaching housing from different hats. Some of y'all are developers with Habitat or Livable. But I think that amid all the noise of supply and demand or how displacement actually happens, I think that what this actually just comes down to is like keeping Black people in their homes. And I think that if you all had the opportunity, like if you ask yourself, if you had the opportunity to intervene and do something about Vinegar Hill or Gospel Hill at the time? Like, would you have, and if your answer is like truly and genuinely yes, then I think you have to be willing to vocally oppose these luxury developments.
I second that wholeheartedly. And
Sure.
Wendy, I really want to say like, yo, I really commend you because you got a shout out last night at that bar meeting. I know this is not the public comment for y'all, but I truly, truly second what she's saying. And I think y'all should stand on what she's saying because y'all are a part of this community. You know what I'm saying? And your word really do hold some weight. Everybody at that table, y'all hold weight and y'all can make a change. Y'all can hold that area down and y'all can hold what's left of urban areas. Y'all can hold us down. You know what I'm saying? Y'all can really do that. But Wendy, yo, I'm telling you, like, you tough. You hear me? I'm talking about like you really got the gift of gab because you be in every room and when you walk in, it's like they gonna know you coming with that work. You hear me? So I commend you because bro, you show up, man. You show out every single time. You don't miss. And I truly appreciate it. Like, I truly appreciate it. The information you gave last night about that being a slave plantation, that joint was just like, boom. Like, you dropped you know what I'm saying? He got on his computer instantly, like, hold on, is it? And then he stopped typing. I was like, yeah, it is. You hear me? So you come with them. You come with loads. Like, you come with loads of information. And I really, really appreciate you. For real. Like, you are one of those people who gonna be in history, in those books with Black people, you know what I mean? In those neighborhoods to be like, yo, Wendy Gallo, like, she was that girl. Like, you're gonna be in those books the same way some of those people were that helped save Edgar Hill. You know what I'm saying? For real, you stood there on the front line from day one.
I do appreciate Wendy, because I don't do the code, and I don't do the code, she show up.
Yeah, all the time. She don't miss.
Anyway, anything else? Okay, can I have a motion to, our next meeting is,
Well, do we want to talk about that?
huh?
Do we want to talk about?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, Nicole. Yes, do y'all want to comment on what you said?
Do we want to set a meeting to talk about it? I mean, PAC doesn't have a, you know, we don't, to their point, I mean, PAC doesn't matter in the sense of making any change, but to the sense of making some symbolic, you know, adding PAC's voice matters to it. Do we want to?
What I will say is, it does matter to me, being that I'm the chair, that I hear y'all view about what we're saying. It, to me, from based on what I'm hearing and double checking with my mentors, who is getting me to understand this whole zoning thing, it was a miss from all of us. We did not realize how this was going to impact. It was a miss. And so a lot of times when we decide things, there are things we don't foresee, but now we're seeing it and it needs to be addressed because it is going to be an impact. So I definitely would love to either put it on the agenda, talk about it, and let's take a vote, do whatever, or make a recommendation back to city council.
I just want to say I truly appreciate you being able to put on the front street, you know what I mean, that you guys had a little bit of, you know what I mean, like y'all messed up a little bit. What was that lady's name that was up there as a volunteer? She had the black and white on, she had the white hair, and she had admitted.
Lois.
Is that her name? She was one of the bar members. Yeah, she had admitted completely all around like it's all of our fault. You know what I mean? So I like to hear when you can admit that it is your fault or you played a part in it being your fault. You know what I'm saying? That you're not keeping that part away from the public. Like, everybody make mistakes, you know what I'm saying? And we didn't know that it was gonna trickle down like dominoes like that, but now we do know. So it's a chance that we could do something about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I've got a million thoughts, basically all I think about.
If it's at all possible for you all to meet before your regularly scheduled meeting, or to delegate to whoever's willing to be on a committee that would make a statement on HAC's behalf, because I think that the city council work session is 2 days before your next regular meeting date. I think it's going to be on January 19th.
Where is it in the process?
They've only had a pre-application go before BAR, and Sorry,
Yeah,
go
we
ahead.
got denied last night.
It's a by
That's a
right
different
one.
project.
The 7.5 got denied, but
Is there
LV,
anything left for discretionary review?
There is.
What's, the BAR deciding on height?
And then it probably will be appealed to council, like.
You're talking about the mark.
Oh.
Well, it's not at that point yet, though, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm just saying, there's more discretionary review period.
So this is the one after the application is submitted, then it goes to the bar to decide whether they want to curb the height. Is that, so their discretion is on height. Is that correct?
Yes. Another.
2
design
stories.
component.
2 stories.
They
Right.
can knock it back 2 stories.
Yeah. Another design component.
That historic landmark,
Mhm.
they read out.
yeah, so the 7.5 Street one last night got denied, but LV collected when it went to the bar meeting a couple of months ago, or maybe 3 months ago. They were told to come back to the community and work with the community. They came back one time and just said, this is what we're gonna do, and we haven't heard from them.
And they didn't door knock, they didn't outreach to nobody.
They didn't
West Haven.
outreach or do anything.
Something.
Fazina Howard reached out to us and said, hey, have you heard from them? And we said, no. We set up a meeting. It was at Legal Aid. We spent 2.5 hours. And we had people like Ms. John Sales and different people in the room talking to them, and they still was not hearing us. This is what they're gonna do. But we haven't had or seen any movement. We've been keeping up with the BAR, nothing has happened, and, you know, I don't think that they have. They don't have to come to you all. And that's the issue with the miss.
They don't have to come to.
Right?
To who?
Is they don't have to come to city council. They don't have to submit anything to city council.
correct.
By right, they just go
It's-
straight to the BAR.
Right, they are entitled to this amount of development. And because that decision has already been made by council,
And I'm saying that's a miss, we miss, because the
Right.
community doesn't have a
they have that.
say-so in it until the BAR meeting.
Right.
And that's
That's
not,
the only time they
Yeah.
have a comment
Yes, that is the
period.
decision that was made.
And their rights have not vested.
And the other relevant timeline is city council will have a work session, I believe, our second meeting in January to discuss possible changes related to student housing generally, whether that could be zoning changes, special exception permits, additional BAR purview.
Geographic coverage.
Yeah, many things. And
Staff will be presenting on the scope of work for our study for student housing and the scope of what those recommendations could do to address how those recommendations could impact future student housing projects. But we have to be just really mindful of the fact that these applications are already submitted projects. And the fact that they have entitlement already under the code, as you think about what sort of changes you might want to consider moving forward.
They haven't, their rights haven't vested. And so broad stroke changes can be made that would impact these.
and
I'm sorry.
I would second
Just, wait a minute. Clarify what you mean by they haven't
Like
invested.
there are, if we, and I don't know if I agree with this, honestly, I
Right.
stay up at night thinking about this, but there are
We all have
changes.
hobbies.
What? There are changes that the city can decide to make that
They
are policy oriented, that impact more than one property and project that aren't spot zoning.
Okay, yeah,
That
okay, now I
would
know the
impact-
distinction. I got you.
Yeah, they
That would
can do
impact
it.
these
All right,
projects.
so that's.
It's a thing the city can do if they
Wrong way.
want to do.
I second that, and obviously that is a very controversial decision, but it is a decision that city council can make. And the second point is the discussion, will, even if both these projects move forward because they get full vesting rights, they are symptomatic of what is going to happen in all of the X districts. So
that part.
Set an example. You feel
so it's going to be relevant to think about whether city council does or doesn't change anything. And I think it will also be useful to have city council provide a clear perspective on, their opinion on it. And it's a very controversial issue. I think Obviously, hack is not going to determine what happens,
No.
but it is, it is a voice city
But
council.
with or without that,
sees
we're
and
still
listens
going
to.
to drum that beat going forward.
So Joy, can I ask some clarification in terms of what you would like to see come in front of the hack? So I see like four different subdivisions of the question. One is the application package that's currently in front of the BAR. Two is the place of the BAR, the role in the zoning code, because one could argue that the BAR being part of it at this point is kind of out of order in a way. But that's
Big question elsewhere.
It's a big question that's probably a tier 3 type of thing. Changes to the zoning code, so rewrite of the zoning code to potentially like scale back the intensity of parcels. No, can I please?
Sorry.
And then student housing, there are questions about student housing. And so I just want some clarity about what it is that you would like this body to weigh in on the application process, on the particular application package, or the policies that are kind of the policies that may be out of alignment.
I think how I would answer that question is how it is, all of it is impacting the neighborhood, in our neighborhoods.
The historical
Right?
landmark.
It's all of it, right? It's the height.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, honey. You have to-
Oh, my bad. Sorry.
It's the one is the height. Two is, first thing is that's something we did not foresee. We, the community, didn't foresee. Maybe y'all foresee it, but we didn't. But now that we're seeing that your monster building like that in a neighborhood does impact, that's something that needs to be changed. And then the other thing was that there were no community involvement in any of it, none whatsoever. So for me, is all of what you just asked. It's about that community, right? And so yeah, you had something you needed to say.
I mean, I do, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Dan, I'm sorry. The way I think about it is there needs to be, and I think everyone here would agree, there needs to be the city acting to right historic unjust things that the city did in the past related to land use and minority communities, right? Like the city should act and do something reparative.
Yes.
So then does that mean that we have lower height? Does that mean we have a land bank or a land acquisition entity? Does that mean zoning changes need to happen, right? Like all the things Dan asked. And it is like, I kind of am deferential, like, what does it look like to have a repair happen? I don't know the answer to that.
I think it starts with one, undoing what you did not foresee. And two, you listen to the community, you plan with the community, and you build with the community. And that none of that happened from either one of them. None of that happened. And I will go back to the Dairy Central. Dairy Central was a prime example that this shouldn't even happen again, because Dairy Central came in, have a couple of meetings, and they promised the community something, and then they did not do it. They did the opposite, which now is causing a lot of issues in the community as far as traffic and all kinds of stuff. So I just think that we need to pay attention to the what's left of our communities. And so that's where I'm coming from, right? I mean, the standard, we basically said, we don't like the standard. The standard is overshadowing. And I think, I can't remember her name. She used to be my annoying person at the planning commission, but I loved her that day when she said, this is a mistake. I can't remember her name.
Jenny.
Jen.
Something with a K.
Oh, Jenny Keller?
Yeah, she said, the standard is a mistake, right? And here it is, we're gonna go even 4 story higher than what is there at the standard. Again, you all don't see how it impacts the residents who live in 828, 822, and 814. That's standard. I do. They do. You're not living it. You're not seeing it. And then there was supposed to be an entrance to West Main, and all they gave them was just a pathway. And that's gonna be closed off if that building go up. So again, that's why our residents don't trust any process. Even with us doing redevelopment right now, they're showing up, but they're saying they're gonna do what they want to do anyway. So come on. I don't know what else I can say to you all, is that this is something that is, if we win, if we lose this battle, it's gonna, wherever, it's gonna be any pockets of low income community. It's happening already in Fifield.
And I would just add, I think, to everything you said, I agree with that, and would add, I think, clarification on just the basic issue is by right 7 to 11 stories of student housing adjacent to 10th and Page, Fifeville, Rose Hill. Is that good or bad? Because there are people who think it's good.
Yeah.
And they want more of it to happen. And that's, I don't agree with that, but that's a legitimate perspective. Obviously, those folks are scared to say that out loud right now because,
Well, I would say,
sorry.
I keep interrupting people. I'm so
You know, no, I'm just done. But I think that is kind of important, and see where that takes, you know, the community conversation. And we had another mistake. I mean, the Carlton Mobile Home Park was bought after it was rezoned to RX3, which allows 5 stories and unlimited density on that parcel. You know, maybe there was a lesson we could have learned there too about how capitalism works. But, you know.
But anyway, I don't want to hold up anybody because it's like 2:10. But again, it would be nice for it to be on
who sets the what is on the agenda?
I mean, Madeline,
all three of us.
Madeline makes a suggestion based on
all three of
everything
us.
else.
But it's important to hear from you all. Is it something you're willing to
be on the
talk
agenda?
about?
Joy,
I mean,
You
so
want a special
for me,
meeting?
it's a resounding yes. I was just trying to figure out what it is. So there's like
Yeah.
different it's
Yeah,
here. One of the
no,
it's is doing
things, I'm hearing displacement. And then.
But I mean, I'm
Michael just had a very
hearing an
succinct-
urgency about a particular application that's in front. And so the hack speaking about that is different. It's related, but it's different than the hack speaking about height in zones adjacent to ours.
Just say that, sorry, I keep interrupting.
We're gonna be useless talk if we're just talking without any kind of goals. Like we have to, like, I heard, and I'm moved by the urgency that I heard, look, stop this building. And so.
So we could talk about what is it about these projects that makes it so urgent? And from that conversation, maybe pour out what particular action steps council can or should do, if anything.
So would you like to schedule a special meeting for this topic?
Sure, Miss
before our
Emily,
next
yeah,
meeting?
yeah,
Before
Miss
the-
Emily.
Yeah, I think there are very specific things you all could say. Send a letter to council on Monday that I'm happy to forward to Madeline and she can circulate it. But what you could talk about is changing the core neighborhood corridor overlay. I think it is an overlay, to decrease height substantially from what it is. Because right now it can be close to what they're asking for, and they're not in a core neighborhood overlay right now. And that was what the oversight was not to have done that. But you could do that so it's not spot zoning, like identify all of the core neighborhood corridors in the city that would be relevant and decrease the height in all of them. But I love the idea of a special meeting because I really think you all can impact what city council will talk about on the 3rd Monday of the month.
Can you clarify, and Kelly just left, but in terms of what is actually on the docket for the 20th for city council relative to this? I'm just trying to see if a special meeting, I hear the call for a special meeting. I just want to see if there's actually agency that would be meaningful.
No, go please.
It's really as broad as kind of what we're talking about now. They've had like 2 separate discussions about the discussion. Like so I don't think anyone really knows what the
The work
specific.
sessions are generally mostly led by, they don't usually have an agenda come together in advance like we do for everything else on the agenda.
And so there's no action expectations out of that meeting necessarily.
And it's very much going to be a city council-led discussion because this is inherently something that
need-
really does not involve
it's
staff
like- Staff
recommendations.
is mostly looking for knowing where
Could
city
have.
council stands on a lot of
Sorry.
items, yeah.
But I think it'll be as broad as you said, and when Lloyd and myself requested this, the explicit, at that time, the goal was to have a work session to discuss student housing as a whole related to underlying zoning districts, and whether we want to change that. I don't know if that's helpful.
I would love to know what Sunshine is.
Yeah, I mean, I think it lives, like, I hear 100% the concerns, the lived experience, the lives to be impacted. What I know is being balanced on a different, I'm not going to say other side of the equation, but a different side of the equation is the risk of down zoning on sites that then gives purchase for other entities or other advocacies that aren't really rooted in the community in the same way to pursue down zoning for their own purposes, to undermine the rezoning purpose that we came up with in the first place. And so the big question is just like how to do this in a way that is responsive to the community request without opening the door and causing further unanticipated harm. Like, we're trying to fix a miss, but we don't want to do something that then opens up the door to another miss.
Yeah, just like the zoning code.
So that's where I'm still in stewing and trying to figure out how to do it most effectively. And I think everyone's stewing with that. Like, that's why city council is like bringing it back and forth and talking in generalities, because the solution isn't abundantly clear how to do it in a way that doesn't then potentially cause further harm.
And I totally agree. And I would just add, I think if fear is a concern, I don't think we should have that stop us from trying to get to the most refined zoning we can. Things change, but the political center in Charlottesville is changed so much. Well, in many ways it hasn't changed, but the down zoning pressure in the rich neighborhoods, I just don't see that happening. The constituency has ran candidates and didn't just lose, lost terribly. And I think part of this sadness and limitations of zoning too is the market on its own is naturally seeing the least change in the wealthiest neighborhoods. They're already not changing just because of the market.
Or alderman.
Which is why part of the zoning effort was to have this distinguished zoning between core neighborhoods and the wealthier neighborhoods to try to redistribute the development pressure and not exacerbate, development within the core neighborhoods.
So might I suggest that we're talking about a special meeting where we're not exactly sure what the topic, where the pointy end of the spear on the topic is, but we know what the topic is, right? And also that this is a good segue into that relationship between the core neighborhood zoning, and its relationship to this. And maybe this is a larger conversation about the neighborhood zoning, the neighboring overlays, and the relationship. And that's probably a worthy topic in and of itself. And we might as well do a special meeting so we've got something to say at the work session.
And I think one of the most important questions to me is really like special use permits, special exception permits, because I actually think that really squares the circle of the concerns you raised, because I think if you have low base height, lower density with special use permit, the evidence that our special use permit process was the constraining factor to development is pretty weak. It could be.
Applications more. weren't put forward to you because of the
Fair.
fear.
No, and that's fair, and I don't think they should be
We have to get out of
way
here.
this way.
Yeah.
Again, I would.
And you want it everywhere, but would it allow
to discuss
nuance
this.
and
I
context?
disagree with you. I think that might be the way. I just have the same fear that sometimes.
No, I think it's reasonable.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll get with.
I can
you.
circulate,
Yeah.
an email to find a time
All
for a
right.
special meeting. That's the
Motion to
direction.
adjourn.
You have one.
Yes.
All in favor, aye, we gotta get it.
I'm glad that Wendy and you keep bringing it up.
Yes.
It is like all I think about.
We don't have an answer.
It's only just.
Not that I-
Okay, sounds good, 'cause I gotta get to.
Well, I appreciate it. That's all we've been doing is, you know, trying to figure out how we get a win.
Over here, so then when I start watching back, I feel like now.
See, that's right.
Like, leave a little revolution, but like, right now.
Sure.
Everybody's been waiting for real time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Are you headed back to Lexington?
Yeah.
Rory said he's not
So we
gonna.
gotta do, yeah, they're doing it.
I'm not surprised.
Okay, all right, Emily.
All right.
But I'll tell him.
Okay.